What a cheater! That's cheating!
It's like, you know how on like news sets they have like their tablets and all that?
Cheating.
That's cheating.
That's the raw version, eh? That's your auto cue. I have no auto cue.
I don't. Never have. Can't even see it.
Here's my auto cue up here.
Tiana everyone, welcome back again to another episode of Creative Coconuts, our final episode actually. I'm Tiana Haxton.
And I'm not Tiana Haxton. Kia ora, welcome to Creative Coconuts. My name is Motone. I'm one of the producers of the show. And seeing it to our last one, I thought I'd come on and show you my ugly face.
Yeah, so in this episode we're going to be speaking with Motone Productions. One half of Motone Productions is Glenda Tuaine. Now, she's quite a big deal to say the least. She won the New Zealand Arts Pasifika Award back in 2018, and this is one of the prestigious awards in New Zealand. It's awarded annually to celebrate excellence for Pacific artists across the mediums, across the range from established to emerging artists. So that's one half of Motone.
Yep, and the other half is a very good friend of mine, Mr. Mo Newport. He is a creative. He's also our drummer in our band, One Inch Funk. But his accolades and his achievements in New Zealand are heaps. He's done film. He's worked on the Warratahs, Vertigo. He's also played drums for country music band, the Warratahs. So, shall we stop talking and watch the next episode?
Yep, right are we. Here we go.
Well, my real name is Maurice, but people just call me Mo. Maurice Newport, and one half of Motone Productions.
Boom. And I'm Glenda Tuaine, married to Maurice Newport, and the other half of Motone Productions. Yay!
Well, the name itself, Motone, originated from, not through Glenda and I, but myself, when I was organising gigs down at Cafe Salsa with Tony Bolivar. And we got together, and because we were both old Bay boys, Tisei Bay boys, and he wanted live music, and he said, "Oh, what can you do?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I can organise some people." And then he went away and came back and said, "Oh, look, I've got a name for us, MoTown, Tony." And I thought, MoTown. I thought, oh, perfect. So we ran with that, and then came to a point where
I went, I'm not going to work at the tourism board anymore. And so I didn't. And that's when we left, and I wanted to get back to doing the work that I have the deepest passion for, which is what I'd come from in New Zealand, creating arts productions, writing, drama, theatre, film, music. And Mo had already begun that journey. And so we went and registered Motone, and we just got really serious about having a production company in the cooks. And for us, what was so incredibly important was that we brought the knowledge base and the understanding that we had about working in an industry, because both of us had worked in that industry for a long time, in the industry for a long time, creative industry, and we had learnt so many incredible things through international engagements, you know, working in Europe, working in Aussie, working in New Zealand, working in the States, doing productions and film and telly. And so we thought that it was high time that we did some of that work here and went back to the work that gets us up in the morning and makes us go, yeah! You know, when we started the idea of doing opera here, and because I'd come from working on really big opera productions through the New Zealand Festival of the Arts, and one of the identifiable things that people I don't think here realised was that the continuation of great opera and opera singers is coming out of the Pacific. As you know, the hoi pollois in the country would like to think that great opera singers come from Europe. No, actually, the great opera singers these days are coming out of the Pacific, and they are travelling to Europe to work in Europe, like Benson Wilson, like Felipe Manu, like Benjamin Marquisi, who was our original opera singer, that very first one that we did.
First one.
Yeah, and so for if I can speak for both of us, thank you. One of, I think, our most biggest events has been the opera, because of the satisfaction that it's given us to be able to develop opera here and to give young singers here the opportunity to understand opera and, you know, support people like Ridge Pornini. And there are other Ridge Porninis on this island that need to be supported. And so opera was the beginning of that wonderful journey of bringing in education programs into schools, taking opera to the Kreative Centre, getting people to frock up, get dressed up to come out for an evening. So for me, I could wax on about that for hours, because I love opera and I love what we've done with it. What about you?
Yeah, last year we celebrated our 10th anniversary of producing that show, and it's been a great journey, and just watching the audiences changed, because in the very first ones it was predominantly expats and probably the more well-off locals.
Yeah.
But over the years it's changed, and we're getting a lot more people, a lot more locals coming to enjoy the show and experience it for the first time. Yeah. And just watching the emotions as well, people crying, people that you know, just blown away and moved by the music and the atmosphere. And yeah, you see people crying all over the place. It's great.
And you know, at its core, that's what art and being in the creative industry is about. I feel so much soul food from being able to create anything that we do that gives people that reflection, that moment to be able to feel like they experienced something, that they got to connect with a memory that they might have had of somebody that they loved, or connect with a new idea or a new concept about the future, or to recognise that that music made them feel better, or that production or that image or that piece of story that you told might have had some resonance to them about something that affected their lives. And that's what great art does, and that's why it's so important that it is nurtured and looked after in a community. And it's not just about cultural and traditional arts, it's about the ability to be able to reference contemporary and engage everybody in that space of being allowed to have an artistic position. What?
It's a COVID survival
mechanism
path that we're on now.
Yeah, and it is, because when all of that stuff happened in the world, and it is still happening, I think creatives are really amazing people in the respect that we know that you have to be adaptable, and you have to be able to reconfigure situations quickly. And that's a real skill. You know, over the 30 plus odd years that I have been a creative industry participant, what I've learned is to, if something's going down in a bad way, find the solution, find ways to make it work better for you. And COVID-19 and this whole global pandemic is one of those moments. You know, if I was to say in its simplistic form, you know, like for example with me in theatre, if in the middle of a show, if the sound goes down, guess what? Project. Learn how to do that. So it's kind of the same thing. And what we ended up having to do was, when the global pandemic happened, all of our gigs got shelved, you know, they got canned. We had a lot of stuff planned this year with a whole bunch of people. You know, the US Embassy and New Zealand. We had, a couple of other wonderful Tiana. We had a whole bunch of things stacked up. Melbourne University, a whole bunch of things stacked up that we were, yay, let's really go for it. Just like everybody, we had to change. And so the live streams developed because of that. I really felt so much for the music industry here and our live performers, of which my husband is one of them. And I just saw that, a lot of people don't click if they're not a creative person or they're a muso, that if you're not doing it, then you are out of sorts. You actually do need to be playing music regularly. You do need to be doing your art regularly. And so live streams was a great way for us to learn how to be IT techie savvy with regards putting on an online show, but it also gave us the opportunity to bring our musician friends into our house and give a bit of, aroa, and to be able to let the rest of the world know that Cook Islands music is there and it's incredibly relevant. We have a ton of amazing musicians and artists that should be heralded and filmed and shown to the rest of the world, and it was an opportunity for us to communicate with people around the globe, and we did, and we still love doing it.
Yeah, as Glenda said, it came about, there are things that we've been thinking about, live shows. There's a great format that the Hawaiians do in similar sort of location with a big deck and a vista, and they have different artists performing all the time, and just taking that model, I guess, and bringing it here. And of course, with all these musicians out of work, and as Glenda said, just highlighting the local talent that's here on the island, not just contemporary artists, but also the more traditional, not traditional, but more local style music. And providing a platform for those artists to reach out further than what they have done. So, it's all part of that awareness, making people aware of who we are, what we're doing, and what we're capable of doing, actually.
Yeah. Build base, build audience base as well. Really important. In this current time when digitisation becomes so incredibly, it's the vaka for being able to get your products out to the world with non-contact moments. The reality is that when you can put something online and learn how to do that and learn how to ignite people's passion for Cook Islands music through that level of engagement, then it should be done.
Yeah, people are used to just performing to who's in front of you. You can see them, you can see the room and feel the vibe, and but suddenly you're in front of
thousands of people, and continually in front of thousands of people, which is what's so beautiful. Each one of those live streams just keeps on creeping and creeping and creeping as people engage with them. And the thing is to move those productions even higher and make them even better, and look at online shows, and all of this kind of stuff is the future. It really is. And it's also an industry that generates revenue if done correctly. So therefore, I look at just recently, a friend of ours, Vela Ministrati, has put his new show up on Kokanuts TV, which is, what's the name of it? Broken Lives, I think is the name of it. And it just released last night, and that was supported by New Zealand On Air, supported by a bunch of funders to be able to make that mini episode series. That's it, that's the future. There's a cluster of creative people on this island, and what is I think the working model here is that there isn't enough space for one big production house like you might have in other countries. What is clear to me is that when there are creative projects that need to be delivered, or corporate creative projects that need to be delivered as well, then we almost barnacle onto each other. So everybody brings their area of expertise to a particular project, completes the project, and then we move off to individual projects, but then we might draw together again to be able to do that. And that's how I really enjoy working. I think that it allows for many voices to come into the concepting and the creative process. And I think it also provides income for a broader range of people. It allows us to be a creative community as opposed to one voice of one person saying one thing. And that's what is so exciting about the future here for the creative industries, you know, because when we actually do allow everybody to come in creatively and have a voice, then I think we create much more genuine product, but we also move away from just certain voices having a say, you know.
It also comes down to the people that you're working with.
Yeah, it does.
Obviously, you know, you want to work with people, like-minded people that aren't dicks, and that you can get stuff across the line. You know, discuss things, work it out, and move forward. So, you know, that's a big part of it as well. And like Glenda was saying, it's a community thing. And like when we've run big events, when it comes to the production side of it, there is no one-stop shop production house here.
No.
So like with the big music events we've done, you know, you pull on other resources, people to pull it all together. I guess we're producing it, so you pull all these people together to create this one thing. And it's the same with working with creators, Hyper and others.
E2 and you know, Sick Productions and, you know, Kairo and all of that. It's collaboration is the key to good creativity, always. You know, when you have one person who just goes, this is my project, this is how it's going to be, what you will find is that project will probably be very one-dimensional. When you bring in others into the creative collaborative process, wow, you know, the richness that you can get from that, but also the crew, the equipment, the you know, the everything about it becomes much more solid. But you're also providing for each other's own needs, because I love nothing better than sitting in a room with creative heads that I respect, creative heads, and then you bounce an idea and you see where that comes out. And, you know, what you can actually get to is incredible. I just can't reinforce that more. I think that collaborative creative projects are the way forward for us here.
Yeah. Communication is huge. You know, as long as everyone's on the same page, you know, you haven't got people trying to pull it in other directions. We're all moving together.
I don't have any problem with people having egos. I think that they're healthy, but I think it's also really good to be able to be in a space where you can accept criticism or critique, actually, and that you can listen to others and get somewhere with it. Often, dare I say it, in the arts, you get a lot of people who think that they're at this level. They're here. They know everything. And I always come from that position of, I know jack, you know, I know jack shit about some stuff. I love it when I'm around people who know more than me, because I can learn from them. So from the corporate side of things, you know, the private sector, there's some people out there that really support the arts. When it comes to the government funding side of the arts, not really, because we don't have a designated funding agency. So for MoTown, a lot of the time I get funding support from Creative New Zealand, because I have a track record with them. They know the artistic projects that I make. And there are other international funders that fund the projects that we do, international funders. Here, I think is also, 2020 is a really good time, and because the government is actually trying to understand better how they can support the creative industries.
Yep.
They are trying to figure out what they need to do to be able to support creative industries. But in that, I just go back to that really big statement. You need to understand what creative industry and businesses are. You know?
A few years ago, I can't remember exactly when, but the government did have an initiative about launching a creative industry here, and it was spearheaded or fronted by Doris Reid.
Yeah. Titika.
And they were looking at the arts community about formalising this creative industry, and they had a couple of presentations, and I went to a couple of them. And unfortunately, it all fell over, and I would say the well-established older arts that were there just shat on the whole thing, and basically turned it around and complained that they've been ripped off in the past, and why should we trust this going forward. So the whole thing fell over, which is a real shame, because back then there was an opportunity that the government were actually looking at the creative industries. But since then, as Glenda said, it's just kind of fallen off from the government's perspective. And the other thing is now they don't understand what it is.
No.
I mean, creative industry is, covers a huge, broad spectrum, and they tend to just lump it in with culture, language, and performance.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not just that. It's way more than that.
Yeah, and that's where I go back to that whole thing of understanding digitisation and understanding where our kids want to go. We're old farts. I'm able to pull things together for myself, and in that as well, I am concerned that for the rising generations, what are the job prospects for them here? Tourism is not a bad thing. Tourism has built this country. But I also, in this moment, identify that when you put all your eggs in one basket, this happens. So diversifying our future career options and job prospect in country is really, for me, not that hard. What it requires is us to understand where the world is going, and the world is going into the digital space. And so we need to move into the digital space. And by virtue of that, it goes right back to schooling. We need to be teaching our kids coding. We need to teach them media studies. We need to teach them how to use cameras. We need to teach them how to script. We need to teach them maths. All the basics have to be there as well. But we need to be looking at what is real prospect and real opportunity for the next generation to be an engaged generation in that digital platform. There is big money made in those platforms. There is big money in app development, in animation, in filmmaking. I always, sorry to waffle on a bit, but I always go back to Taika. When I was the director of the Fringe Festival in New Zealand, Taika would come, this young, groovy Māori fella, would come to us and go, "Hey, I got this great show. It's pretty crazy, but I want to put it on." And I'd go, "Yep, absolutely. Let's put it on and we'll fund it." Taika, through the course of his life, has had a lot of people that have gone, "Okay, I'll back your crazy idea. That kind of sounds interesting." But he's also had people turn around and go, "No, I'm not going to do it." Out of that, he just kept on persevering. The guy's directing the next Avengers, and has won Academy Awards. That is a story of pure resilience, but commitment to the creative industry, and along the way, having a creative industry support him in turn. We have Taika Collins. We have, animators. We have all those people. What it is about just providing the opportunities for them to be able to do that right here in country.
Yeah, I think just going back to the government supporting creative industries, and obviously looking at diversifying because of what's happened globally. And there's people been getting together and jumping up and down and looking for support now. And it's a long-term game, you know, it's not a quick fix.
That's
right. Creatives might be jumping up and down and going, look, we need money pumped into it now, which is all good and well, but it's got to be thought out, and it's going to happen over years. Like, yeah, sure, Te Reo College has the performing arts program there with drama, dance and music, which is great, and we've supported that from the word go.
Right from the get-go.
But it's just educating more and more people that could be a viable option for you, and there needs to be places or a program put in to the system here to help them see that and get to those goals. Another thing that we've identified is a bridging. Like, you might have some people here that are great talent, but because they don't have the family support, they don't have the financial support, it just goes by the wayside, you know.
But to add to that, what is so incredibly important is that we do have a contemporary artistic scene here. Where are our theatres for theatre production? Where can somebody who wants to put on a play here? It's very difficult. And a lot of the time, because some of the issues may be a bit contentious, you might have some members of the community saying, oh no, that's not good enough, you shouldn't be talking about that. Yes, you should be talking about that. Theatre and performing arts and art are the ways to be able to talk about a society's issues, good and bad. But what is so frustrating for me sometimes that I see is that somebody gets a voice and says, hey, like the film industry, oh, we're going to have an international film industry here. Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah, we're going to do that. Those things take years of planning, years of building. But first and foremost, my question is, what about your local film industry? Let's get that happening as well, you know? Like, the conversation shouldn't just be about internationals coming in and saving the day. What it should be about is building local ability, local resource, local creatives to create their own films to be seen on the international stage. If you take New Zealand as an example of that, New Zealand is a big film location place now, but it also has its own film industry making local films. That has taken Peter Jackson in the early days. When was Frighteners? When did Frighteners get filmed? In Wellington.
Oh, God.
20 odd years it's taken to get to that point. So it's a long game. It's a long game. And I just think now's the time to start it.
Well, that was MoTown. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments down below, and thank you for watching our final episode. Now, please let us know what's going to be happening on from now on.
Yeah, this is the last episode of Creative Kokanuts. First of all, I want to thank everybody who contributed their time and let us sit down with them and take a glimpse into their lives of what's happening here in the Cook Islands as far as the creative community. What's happening next is a lot. 6 Studios got a lot of stuff coming up. Look forward to Creative Kokanuts too. Me and Tiana will be here. You stay there, like, subscribe and all that stuff.
So until next time, ka kite.
Ka kite.